Are you new to DNA and you've just tested with MyHeritage? Well, let me show you today what all that information means on their website. Howdy, I'm Andy Lee with Family History Fanatics, and this is a segment of DNA. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on that bell if you want to be notified about upcoming episodes. Now, MyHeritage has some great tools for using DNA in your genealogy research. And if you have just tested, then it might be overwhelming to you. And so what I want to do is I want to go through today on a basic level what information MyHeritage is showing you about your DNA. Now, if you log on to the MyHeritage website, then this is the page that you're going to get. And if we go up to the DNA and just hover over that, then it's going to give us some different options. So we have the overview, the ethnicity estimate, DNA matches, DNA tools, manage your DNA kits, surveys, upload your DNA data, and order DNA kits. Let's start with the overview and talk about what is being shown. Now, in the overview is going to give you really the bits of information that we can find in the others just at a quick glance. So for instance, there is an ethnicity estimate that tells you roughly where your DNA might have been from. You can see that mine is from English, from Irish, Scottish, and from a couple of others. Then there is going to be your DNA matches. How much of those are close family, how much are extended family, and how much might be distant relatives. It also shows you some locations of where those matches are. So you can see that, yeah, I've got a lot of my matches in the United States, but there's a fair amount in Great Britain and Australia and Canada and New Zealand as well. And then I have, scrolling down, some from Hong Kong or the United Arab Emirates, or even one from Turkey, one from Peru, one from Guam, all over the world that I share some amount of DNA with. It also breaks down the ethnicity results of mine with how many of my matches have that same amount. So you can see the majority of my ethnicity was English, and so the majority of my matches are also going to be English as well. And then there's also a lot that are in the Irish Scottish. So again, this is just a brief overview, so let's go into some of these others. Now across the top here we have the ethnicity estimate, and that's where we're going to go to next. Now this is going to break down that basic data into a little bit more detail. And as we go down, we can see that, hey, I have what they already told me, that English, Scottish, Finnish, and as I hover over each one, you can see on the map, it's going to highlight the region of where that is from. So here's the Middle East being highlighted. Here is the Scandinavian or the Finnish that's being highlighted, and then the Irish, Scottish, and Welsh, which is really overlapping a lot with the English in that area. Now, if you want to, you can actually see all supported ethnicities, so all the ones that MyHeritage does an analysis on, and there are a lot of them. And I don't have most of them in my DNA makeup. But we can highlight over each one, and it's going to show where in the world these are located. So if I wanted to look at Ashkenazi Jewish, I can see what part of Eastern Europe is that really covering compared to like the Balkan or the Baltic or just the East European. Now the next thing that you can do is if you have a family tree already on MyHeritage, then by clicking on the little checkbox right above the map, it's going to go through your family tree and it's going to plot out where certain events and certain people may be. And what this is useful for, particularly if you don't know a whole lot, but you maybe have some bits on your family tree, is you can see, well, did any of those ancestors fall within these general geographic areas? So for instance, with the English and the Irish and Scottish, I can see that, yeah, I've got a lot of data that shows that I have some ancestors that had some event, a birth, a marriage, a death in those areas. If I scroll over to the Finnish, I see that I don't have really anything in my family tree that even comes close up to the Finnish area. And the same with the Middle East. I don't have anything in my family tree that shows anything happening over in the Middle East. But as I scroll out, there's a lot of things in other parts of Europe. There's some down in Portugal, some over in France and Switzerland and Germany. And then, of course, in the United States and Canada, because that's where I live. And my ancestors have lived here for, in some cases, 10 generations, going back to the 1600s. But it's all over the United States as far as where events in my family tree have been happening. So that's one of the reasons why you should put a family tree on MyHeritage, is just to start to see how that overlaps with whatever ethnicity results you have. Next, we're going to go over to the DNA matches. Now, in the DNA matches, this is going to be the people that match you. And you'll see that, hey, these first several ones, they're all me. And that's because I've actually uploaded my DNA from other websites to MyHeritage. And so it's going to give me some information. It's going to tell me what the estimated relationship is. And in this case, it's myself, because we share all of our DNA in common. It's going to tell me how much shared DNA I have, which is basically 100% because it's me again, how many segments of DNA that is, and it's going to tell me what the largest segment of DNA that is. Then I can go and I can look at my tree, or I can review that DNA match. I'm going to click on the Review DNA Match. Now this is what you'll see whenever you match somebody else, is it's going to pull up some data here. First off, it's going to have how much you match. Then it's going to have what is called the shared match list. And these are the matches that you share in common with somebody else. So if you know how you're related, then likely you both share a common ancestor through that ancestor. So we can see here that, hey, this is identifying my relationship as self, and it gives me information on how much I share with that person and how much this match shares with that person. Next, it's going to provide some information about whatever shared ethnicities we have. And so we can see that I'm in one column and my match is in another column. Now, because I am just looking at a match of myself, this data is going to be very similar. When I'm starting to look at some of my other matches, there may be some overlap, as well as some other areas that that person shares that I don't share. The next thing on this list is the chromosome browser. And this is where you can see which segments on your chromosome are shared. Now, in this case, everything is shared all the way across. I'm going to jump over to my cousins, and so you can see what that looks like. And you can see that, yeah, there's some interspersed where we share DNA, as well as some big areas where we don't share DNA. And the farther distant your match is related to you, the less of that DNA is going to be showing up on here. So you may just have a few specks of DNA, or in some cases with distant matches, you're only going to have one segment that you actually match with. Now, one of the things that you can do with each one of your matches is you can actually add notes to them. So as you're doing your research, as you've contacted them, if you want to add some notes as to how you're related or some information you found, then just click on this icon up in the top corner and add a note here. And then you'll be able to have those to help organize your data so that you know where this match is or how they're related to you. Now next, I want to go to the DNA tools, because MyHeritage has some great tools for helping to analyze your DNA. There's 3 tools listed here. There's the chromosome browser, there's the auto clusters, and there's the ethnicity map. Now this chromosome browser is a little bit different than the chromosome browser you see when you look at a shared match. All that chromosome browser is doing is looking at one person. But what this chromosome browser allows you to do is it allows you to look at multiple people. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to select some different people that I know are related in a certain way, and then we'll look at the results to compare them. So what I have selected here is I have my grandmother. I think he is a uncle or cousin or nephew to my grandmother. I have my cousin, and then I have a really distant relative that also is related through this same line. So let's compare these so that we can see what the results look like and why we might want to use this. You can see I have my 4 people that I'm being compared to, and then as I go down the page, there's going to be chromosome by chromosome, each of the people that I'm related to, where on that chromosome we share DNA. So looking right here, I can see that on some of these chromosomes, there's a lot of DNA that we share in different places, but it's only for 3 of us. And these would be the 3 closest related people on this list. But you can also see that, hey, for some of them, there's segments that they may only share with 1 person, or they may not share with any people. And for the 4th person, there's just this little segment down here that they share with nobody really for the most part. So going back, I can see that this last person is probably not related with the others any closer. There's only a couple of segments that they share in common with me, and they're not really in common very much with anybody else. So I can go back and I can remove them, and let me just take a look at these 3 people, because then there's some other information that's going to show up. So you can see I've gone back and I've eliminated that 4th match, which was not closely related, and now I'm going to compare just these 3. When I'm comparing just these 3 with myself, some of the results are a little bit different. You can see that there's this place where there's actually a box around the DNA. In that spot, not only do all 3 of those matches match me, but they also all match each other, and that is called triangulation. And what triangulation indicates is that there is a common ancestor in a genealogical time frame that we might be able to identify. In this case, we know that there is, because we know how all of us are related. And so whenever you're looking at your matches, these triangulations are one of the big things that you're looking for, because these indicate that you share a common ancestor, and they may have a tree back to that common ancestor, or they may be looking and you may have a tree back to that common ancestor. And by identifying them, communicating with them, and then collaborating in your research, you might help further where you've found your distant ancestors. So going back to the tools, the next tool is called the auto cluster. Now I'm not going to do the full auto cluster here, but basically what the auto cluster will do is it will take a look at all of your matches and which matches they share in common, and create this table of groups of people that all share DNA in common. Now you can use this again for your research in identifying what's the common ancestor between these people, what groups of these people triangulate within the group, and it's a way of organizing your matches so that you can easier understand how those matches relate to your other matches. Now the 3rd tool that's listed on here is the ethnicities map, and this is useful for helping you to understand what those ethnicity results might mean. So there's a couple of ways you can look at this map, and what it has is it has a map of the world, and the first way we can look at it is by country, and we're in the Americas right now. So let's say that I want to see Brazil. What ethnicities are the major ones that are represented in Brazil? And you can see that from Brazil, the major ones represented are Iberian, which would be the Portugal, Spain area, Mesoamerican Andean, which would be from a Native American ancestry. There's Italian, there's North African, there's North and Western Europe. And what this is, these percentages here, is these are the people in the MyHeritage database from Brazil who have this type of ethnicity. So you can see that 85% of them have Iberian ethnicity, and almost half of them have Italian ethnicity as well. So we can look at different countries, and we can actually, in some of these, for instance, the United States, we can go by state. So with Montana, where are most Montanans from? We see that most Montanans have Scandinavian ancestry. If we want to go back and let's take another look, and let's look at Delaware, we can see that, well, Delaware, majority is English ancestry. So if you are trying to see where you're from and where some of your ancestors are from and what the typical ancestry is to see whether you are the same or different from them, then this is a great tool to be able to use. I'm going to go over here to Europe, and let's take a look at Latvia, which is right in the middle of the Baltic. And we can see that even though Latvia is right in the middle of the Baltic, yes, 91% of them have Baltic ancestry. But what's also important to see is that they also show a lot of overlap with Eastern European. And they show some overlap with Balkan, as well as Finnish and Ashkenazi Jewish. So just because Latvia might be right in the middle of where we consider Baltic ancestry, people from Latvia also have ancestry from other parts of the world. So you may come up with ethnicities in your results that are not what you expected from your genealogy, in this case, this is a great tool to go in and start using to see, well, what ethnicities are from different areas. And so you may find that you thought that you were all German. And so we go and we look at Germany, and this is what typically might show up, is it falls, as far as geography, it falls right within the North and West European. But we see that also Germans have a lot of Scandinavian. They also share some with the Balkan, as well as with the English and the Eastern European. So don't get too caught up on the fact that your ethnicity results may not reflect what you know for sure is your ancestry, but start taking a look at what these maps show. Now, another way to look at this is not by country, but by ethnicity. So when we're talking about any one of these population groups, we can, for instance, take Sardinia. And what it's going to do is it's going to show us, hey, Sardinia is basically around the island, but there's a lot of people in different parts of the world that also share that Sardinian ancestry. And so this is just another way of looking at it. These are the countries that share the most of that type of ancestry. Let's go and let's select another one from the Middle East, the Yemenite Jewish one. We can see that Israel has the most of that, but that ancestry actually originates down in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen. So these are good maps for helping to understand where that ethnicity results may be coming from. Now, there are some other things that you can do with your DNA. For instance, if you want to upload a DNA kit from another company, you can upload that DNA kit to MyHeritage. And then for a small fee, you'll be able to actually use those tools that MyHeritage has. You'll be able to receive your matches for free, but if you want to be able to use the tools, it's going to cost you, I think it's around $20 that it costs. The other thing that you can do is MyHeritage is also looking at making some different discoveries. And so they have some surveys available that if you want to take these surveys, it's going to be linked with your DNA, and they'll be able to use that information as far as some different research in trying to make new discoveries. So if you're interested in that, then those are available, but those are completely voluntary. So I hope this has been helpful in helping you take a look at the information that you have available in MyHeritage and how you might want to be able to use that in your DNA research. Now, if you have any questions about MyHeritage, then put it in the comments below and I'll try to answer it for you. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with all your friends.